more truth for 9/11 attack on the United States of America. My fellow world citizens, in my first video, I explained why there were no hijackers on 9/11, why there were remote hijacking, and why the remote hijackings were done by the military. In my second video, I explained about the World Trade Center demolition team. And in my third video, I explained 9/11 attack was a military coup. In this video, I will explain why USA's military would attack USA. Because 9/11 attack on USA was part of the re-annexation of the United States of America by the United British Monarchy. Symbolically, 9/11 was militarily re-annexing of USA by the United British Monarchy, following Cecil Rhodes' methodology of using secret society of the elect, because the selected remotely hijacked flights which acted as missiles precisely hitting global landmarks of American sovereignty, World Trade Center WTC, and Pentagon were originated from New England, the Tea Party state, New Jersey, Loyalist, and Virginia, the Confederate. Also shooting down Flight 93 over Stony Creek, Pennsylvania, the Liberty State, is symbolic British victory over America. Destroying American economic sovereign structure, World Trade Center, and the center of the American military activity, the very Pentagon, making the Empire State Building the highest in New York City. Before 9/11, CIA, derivative of UK's MI6 after World War II, had tested remote-controlled drones to hunt Bin Laden. Global Hawk made a voyage to monarchical Australia from California without a pilot, and Boeing 737, 757, 767 were tested for remote landing by both NASA and Boeing's military wing. So there is no surprise that technology has been there. All it needed, the willingness of the higher-ups within military and pertinent government agencies. What American media, rather private media moguls, never explained to the Americans before attacking Bin Laden and Islam without any physical proofs, based on doctored audiovisuals and gossips, that war for American independence never ended. British troops invaded, burned Capitol and White House, destroyed the naval yard, looted the merchants, and tried to take over key port cities in 1814. They have been the greatest threat to the American Revolution and democracy, and that was never cleared to the American citizens. 9/11 plan was not different, only high-tech, coordinating loyals in every which way. 9/11 wasn't an isolated incident. British and US troops were already exercising with massive number of armies, along with unprecedented troops maneuvering around the world since World War II, ignoring citizens, including men and women in uniform, under debris, suffering to be rescued at the World Trade Center and Pentagon. That's why most members of both Senate and Congress were opposed to any public investigation. Even for anthrax sent to Democratic senators, including Senate Majority Leader Tom Daschle and Senator Rush Feingold, who were preparing for normal investigative process. That's why Statue of Liberty was closed following 9/11 for renovation, rewriting history of American independence, deifying British settlers. $2.3 trillion missing Pentagon funds as royalty was never investigated, and the Homeland Security Department consolidating most of its Washington-based facilities on the campus of the former St. Elizabeth's Hospital. Loyal private mercenaries like Blackwater, now Academy, became above Congress, and US British private mercenaries maintaining huge presence in Iraq with immunity, even after formal withdrawal by the Obama administration. That's why Obama administration couldn't close Gestapo Guantanamo Bay and bring the suspects to open justice per campaign promise, reinstating true American standards. That's why French state Louisiana was punished, ignoring Hurricane Katrina related devastation and victims, since France was active partner for the American independence. French fries were ridiculed in the loyal media, renaming them freedom fries. It is to be noted that on 9/11, FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, was mobilized within minutes, whereas it took 10 days for it to deploy to New Orleans to respond to Hurricane Katrina, even with abundant advance warnings. Even it can be assumed that Deepwater Horizon explosion under British Petroleum as deliberate to keep USA dependent on foreign oil, thereby justifying US taxpayers paid military arrogance for the convenience of the United Monarchical Alliance. That's why US government's open accountability since 1816 became partially closed, concealing 900,000 plus civil workers' names and work locations. British colony Bermuda-based Accenture, formerly Anderson Consulting, had the contract for the online military vote in 2004, probably to track down patterns of military voting, isolating sovereign patriots. That's why there was pre-9/11 US-Canada joint false flag operation to frame Muslims, using them as CIA, FBI, CC's, RCMP moles. Imagine why CC's, RCMP, FBI, CIA would jointly allow a car full of explosives to board Canadian and American ferries under their careful eyes, ignoring possibilities of Canadian and American casualties and cost of rescue, lawsuits as well as related investigations, only to frame the drivers as 2000 New Year's Eve bombers. It is to be noted that Canada is part of the United British Monarchy. BBC was part of the 9/11 script, predicting repeatedly the collapse of WTC Building 7 before its implosion by the new owner Silverstein Properties, Larry Silverstein. And the irony is that American taxpayers paid UK-based, most sophisticated high-tech global surveillance program Echelon has been used for the success of the 9/11 false flag operation, disinformation, framing up, and cover-ups. Related article: How criminal were FBI's Radical Fundamentalist Unit and CIA for the success of the uninterrupted military coup by the Loyalists. Now back again with the 9/11 Re-Annexation. That's why Washington DC sniper could terrorize the capital city, evading FBI and Homeland Security for weeks, until it heinously silenced FBI cyber analyst Linda Franklin. Loyal criminal FBI was in charge of every criminal site rescue, recovery, and investigation, including military. Military-grade anthrax attack on American government, media, and postal stations, never investigated. Land of the brave has been plagued with meticulously orchestrated murder-suicides to silence true vocal patriots. None of the huge number of responsible heads inside government, military, law enforcement who failed US and world citizens ever punished. Rather, all of them enjoyed promotion and or huge raise in salary as the country plummeted into recession, more unemployment, fighting illegal wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, as well as increasing covert intelligence black budget. That's why George Bush wasn't the president during 9/11. The unconstitutional shadow government, COG, in existence since 1980, beginning with Reagan administration, where Cheney, Richard Clark and Rumsfeld were regulars, took over command and Cheney and Clark were making all the decisions. That is why President Bush and Colin Powell's phones were jammed throughout 9/11 saga, and Bush didn't know what he would do after the paid goat reading in Florida, except wheeling around in the sky and going to Barksdale Air Force Base to be baptized in the Bin Laden story and future war on terror. Probably that's why Bush was eager to invade Iraq, saying, quote, "When we are going after Iraq," unquote, day after 9/11, when the fire in Pentagon and WTC is still burning and people, including men and women. Quote, "I have spoken to the Vice President, to the Governor of New York, to the Director of the FBI, and have ordered to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and to find those folks who committed this act. Terrorism against our nation will not stand," unquote. But within days, he will oppose all investigations, joining Vice President Cheney and urge Senate and Congress accordingly. In fact, US President has been merely acting as a domestic Prime Minister since 9/11 and not the Commander-in-Chief for the military, which is obvious from the statement of Mr. Henry Kissinger, secretive Bilderberg member and regular. Quote, "We told the military that we would have to take over 7 Middle Eastern countries for their resources, and they have nearly completed their job. We all know what I think of the military, but I have to say they have obeyed orders superfluously this time. It is just that last stepping stone, that is Iran, which will really tip the balance. How long can China and Russia stand by and watch America clean up? The great Russian bear and Chinese sickle will be roused from their slumber, and this is when Israel will have to fight with all its might and weapons to kill as many Arabs as it can. Hopefully, if all goes well, half the Middle East will be Israeli," unquote. Ever wondered why Statue of Liberty, the very symbol of American freedom and sovereignty, was closed down since September 11, 2001? Because the 9/11 perpetrators had been rewriting the American history of independence that was engraved in the stones of the park, outside and inside. They partially opened the park portion that has been already rewritten, deifying British settlers and the monarchy, undermining the revolution for American independence. Related article, why 9/11 military coup destroyed Pentagon's Navy Command Center. Now back to the 9/11 Re-Annexation. Imagine why the top secret US Democratic Sovereign Pentagon's renovation job would be contracted to monarchical oil and energy British conglomerate AMEC, which would subcontract it to Toronto, Ontario-based company Morse Diesel, owned by a man named Peter Jansen, who also has been an advisor of the Prime Minister of Canada, as well as ex-president and CEO of Swedish engineering company ABB and ASIA, where US Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld used to be a director as well. They only refurbished the Pentagon's Wedge 1 area, where Navy Command Center, NCC, Budget and Personnel Office would move before the attack. Ironically, same AMEC and its subsidiaries were also immediately hired to clean up and reconstruct OH-1 and to lead the cleanup of the World Trade Center WTC site. The company's role in controlling the structural evidences from 9/11 attacks was further emphasized by the fact that it managed the Hudson River barging operations to transport debris from entire WTC site to a Staten Island landfill and to steel recycling operations in New Jersey. The question is, why US taxpayers pay around $11 billion yearly for Federal Emergency Management Agency FEMA? To do what? Note, Sweden is part of the United European Monarchy and Switzerland is half democracy with national anthem God Saves the Queen in tune. Related article, Renovation to Revolution. Was the Pentagon attack planned from within? Now back to 9/11 Re-Annexation. Also imagine why the top secret US military Air Force base Offutt, headquarters of the United States Strategic Command, performing doomsday global guardian military exercises on and during 9/11 would allow the second richest man in USA, Chairman Warren Buffett of Berkshire Hathaway, to organize an unpublicized golf tournament inside the base, inviting guests which included Franklin Resources, San Mateo, California, subsidiary Fiduciary Trust Company International, WTC South Tower, New York. Chairman Ann Tatlock with a group of business leaders and political conservatives. Unchristian-like radio talk show host, college dropout, Rush Limbaugh. Since 9/11, Rush Limbaugh became a $400 million talk show host, and Franklin Fiduciary-based premier Global Investment Management Organization has been handling more than $280 billion in assets under management for some of the richest people around the world. Deliberately, fiduciary trust leaders have been hesitant to speak publicly about the events of September 11. But the result is a new bonding under the Franklin umbrella. An industry publication Global Money Management honored fiduciary in London for the strongest post-September 11 recovery effort. Quote, "It brought people much close together," unquote. Franklin Chairman and CEO Charles B. Johnson said about the response. How they can do it and get away, even in USA in 21st century? Well, here is a relevant quote from Nobel laureate poet Rabindranath Tagore during his speech in USA in 1920 after World War I. Quote, "It was easier for us to speak out against the British Empire in England than in America," unquote. It is to be noted that George Washington fought to end British colonialism in 1781, and Tagore's speech was just after World War I, when 2.5 million new Zionists joined America's existing 1 million, who already thought America was Zion, per Cecil Rhodes' ideology and methodology. And what are those secret societies of the elect that Cecil Rhodes wanted to have? Here are some quotes about US Council on Foreign Relations, CFR, which basically runs current government as the vicar of Senate, Congress, Fed, stock market, and the White House. The late Carol Quigley, Bill Clinton's mentor, professor of history at Georgetown University, member of the CFR, stated in his book, Tragedy and Hope, quote, "The CFR is the American branch of a society which originated in England and which believes that national boundaries should be obliterated and a one-world rule established," unquote. Barry Goldwater once stated on this subject. Quote, the Trilateral Commission is international and it is intended to be the vehicle for multinational consolidation of the commercial and banking interests by seizing control of the political government of the United States. The Trilateral Commission represents a skillful, coordinated efforts to seize control and consolidate the four centers of power: political, monetary, intellectual, and ecclesiastical. Barry Goldwater states in his book, with no apologies, on page 231, quote, does it not seem strange to you that these men just happen to be CFR and just happen to be on the board of the governors of the Federal Reserve that absolutely controls the money and interest rates of the great country without benefit of Congress? A privately owned organization, the Federal Reserve, which has absolutely nothing to do with the United States of America. Rear Admiral Chester Ward, a former member of the CFR for 16 years, warned the American people of the organization's intentions. Quote, the most powerful clique in these elitist groups have one objective in common. They want to bring about the surrender of the sovereignty of the national independence of the United States. A second clique of international members in the CFR comprises the Wall Street international bankers and their key agents. Primarily, they want the world banking monopoly from whatever power ends up in the control of global government, unquote. Can American military, FBI, and CIA hurt own citizens and destroy own sovereign structure for eugenic evangelical colonization goal of the New World Order? Quote, if they were to do real investigations, we would see several significant high-level criminal prosecutions in this country. And that is something that they are not going to let out. And believe me, they will do everything to cover this up, unquote. Cybele Edmonds, former FBI translator. God bless America. God bless Americans to rise again, to regain their revolution and the democracy, much needed for the whole world.